Yeah, look, Ettan, it's really exciting to have you here on the Red. I don't think we have a name for it yet, but the Red AI sessions. In a nutshell, what we're trying to do here, it's a kind of a joint venture, as you call it, with the Red Foundation and Cherry Pick People. Cherry Pick People is obviously partnering with us. They're fantastic kind of recruitment side of stuff. So if you're looking to hire an AI or real estate, message from sponsor, they're a great way to go. But yeah, so the Red Foundation, we're a kind of a charitable cause, and we're all voluntary based, but essentially in a nutshell what we're trying to do is to empower the real estate industry, specifically when it comes to adopting data standards, but more specifically in our case, the AI committee is looking at kind of how the sector can adopt AI, how we can help the sector by providing clear guidance, practical use cases, and hopefully kind of building up-to-date kind of insights around the adoption of AI and to do it safely and in compliance as well. So that's kind of the framing of why we're here today. And obviously the reason why you are a member of the AI Red Foundation committee. And also I've known you for a really long time, and I get to hear kind of first hand our kind of like slightly crazy. It's a good job no one can hear some of those conversations that happen between us on WhatsApp. But I know you're actively experimenting with AI, and I think that's actually quite rare in the real estate sector still. I think it's quite rare to hear people are kind of trying it out, testing it, and getting frustrated with it equally, but also hopefully kind of seeing the value from it as well. So that's why I'm here today. So to kick it off, mate, really, do you want to just explain a little bit more about what you do and what you're kind of working on?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Tom. So I'm the founder of Help Me Fix, which is a software business. We primarily provide AI diagnostic software, video triage software, CRM product, and kind of a human resource element as well, all around the repairs space. So we're focused on delivering repairs more efficiently through the use of diagnostics and triage. And we focus solely on that, on the interaction between the resident usually and the software to enable a kind of a more efficient repair. The byproduct is obviously saving money, which is one of the great things about efficiency. But more importantly, kind of reducing the number of physical visits to properties, thereby reducing the carbon footprint of repairs, looking for ways to add value to kind of tradespeople so that they can work remotely, so they can deliver repairs remotely rather than having to go to properties, and just all of that good stuff that comes with efficiency and hopefully what you'd like to think that comes with technological innovation. I'm primarily focused at the moment on the AI side of our business. So we built an AI repairs system about 15 months ago, and kind of built an MVP and tried it out, and it was kind of terrible, and then we rebuilt it, and now it's pretty good. And what I'm really focused on at the moment is taking the knowledge that we've built up as an organization and the people within our organization, and using that knowledge and being able to make that scale. So for instance, taking the knowledge of our retired engineers, we've got a network of about 50 retired engineers, and obviously with their permission and their consent, is taking that knowledge and almost like bottling it so that it can be deployed at scale across real estate and across repairs, and mainly focused to the UK.
Nice, that's awesome. So one bit I'm kind of really really interested in there in what you said. So it sounds like you didn't get it right the first time, or you didn't get it perfect the first time. Walk me through that a little bit. So what went wrong? What happened?
So a lot actually went wrong. So the first MVP that we built was kind of light to touch. We put it together in a couple of weeks, and then we released it with some family and friends. And the one thing that I realized very quickly about AI is that it's not like any other kind of computer programming. When with computer programming, one of the great things is you have an input, and then you put that input through a process and you get an output, and that is a fixed process. You know, what you put in, if the process is the same, you get the same output on the end.
I mean, that's historically what computing's been, right? It's a logical processor. It takes kind of inputs and then it transforms them to a kind of an end result, which is which is interesting when it comes to AI. So yeah, what was your?
Yeah, it doesn't do that.
It doesn't do
So it just does not do
Yeah.
anything predictable at all. I think one of the things that I learned early on was that there was an additional factor when working with AI. You have to bring in the actual factor that it is AI, and whenever you're building anything or whenever you're testing anything, and especially when you're deploying things to the public, you have to be very aware that essentially with AI you're dealing with a child. That's the best way to think about it. Working with a child that has no knowledge of the outside world, and therefore you have to be very careful with how you teach that child, because in the old adage, crap goes in, crap comes out. It's as simple as that. You need to make sure that what goes in is of good quality and that you set up the right guardrails. And what happened in the beginning is that lots of crap was coming out. So we were kind of, we did what we thought was the right way to train it, the right prompt engineering, but actually it was very unpredictable. It was prone to make mistakes, and actually it was pretty dangerous in the beginning. It's asking people to like strip down electrical appliances and rewire them. Yeah. So, but it's much better now. Just I'll just reiterate and reaffirm that.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that sounds that sounds like funny games, and you know that's very similar, I think, to some of the experiences that we've had. Sorry, let me just what's I saying? Yeah. Yeah, no, so that's really kind of similar to the experience that we've had. I think it's kind of it is like a child, right? But then it's also it's a child with also all of the knowledge of the internet, for better and worse. And sometimes it'll just go down a rabbit hole or spit out things that just don't absolutely make sense. And it is like wrangling cats, like trying to get AI to do what you want it to do. And that's been the biggest learning for me for like I don't know. Did you do much AI before kind of the whole Gen AI thing started, or did you play around with it at all?
I didn't. I literally, you know, it all sparked from a conversation with my best friend who's just a flat out genius, and then he said to me, you know, what are you doing with your data? And I said, well, it's just data. I mean, it just sort of sits there, you know, it's protected. It's, you know, you know, the data goes in and that's it. He said, well, you know, there's this revolution coming and you need to be ready and you need to basically be harnessing that data. And if you're smart, you'll get ahead of it now. So that was my first experience with AI. And you know, it felt like magic at the beginning. It feels very much like magic, still sometimes. And I suppose now, you know, the journey has taken me down from just being able to kind of write a prompt or write a function, to now actually getting much deeper, and kind of now we're kind of training models and you know, doing stuff
Wow.
like that. And for me, that's really exciting. Extremely boring, but extremely exciting when seeing the outputs and things like that.
And so you're kind of actually taking models and you're kind of fine tuning them. Are you what is that the kind of I don't want to go too much into your trade secrets, but that'd be a great name for a
No,
company.
it's fine. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
absolutely fine. I
yeah,
mean, like you've got there's no secrets to it. I mean, you know, so at the moment we've gone from simple kind of use of known techniques with AI, such as like embedding and kind of knowledge bases and things like that, and now we're moving into sort of vision models, labeling data. So we've got probably million images that have come through our system over the past sort of couple of years. So
So like how does
now,
the system work? So every time, so just take a photo of, you know, like a boiler or whatever people are working, the user will snap it and then you'll add that to your repository basically and be able to feed that back into the model. Is that right?
yeah, so over the past 4 years, our engineers have been taking screenshots whenever they've been helping a user. So the user will say, like, they'll say, show me the boiler, that the user shows them the boiler, and then they'll click a button and then that saves that down into our database, and that's then
Yeah.
used on a job report later. So obviously we've got this repository of stuff And obviously, it's all kind of sanitized afterwards. Any sort of personal details are removed and so on and so forth, but we have a lot of anonymized data that we can use. And actually, one of the things that we're doing at the moment is, well, we have this data. How can we use this to be able to kind of do something really useful? So one of the things we're building at the moment is a vision model that can identify spare parts for plumbing and heating and electrical repairs. So we've got this team of 50 guys, and they're sitting there saying, oh yeah, that's a 2-port phalange valve, and that's a side entry Philomena valve. And, so they're essentially...
Are they actual valves, by the way?
No, they're just made those up.
Okay.
I use the phalange valve often, just as a nice ring to it. No, they're not real valves. Okay. But yeah, so they're doing a lot of labeling work, and we're using that to kind of train vision models, and I see that as the future of where we're going, at least, is creating really domain specific neat stuff that can be deployed at scale, to help businesses in the UK repair space.
Makes sense. What's the end goal for you with AI? What's the, like, if you extrapolate like 5 years, what 5 years is a long time in AI, maybe yeah.
Yeah.
AI ethic, maybe just running the business, but no, what's the kind of ultimate goal?
So the one problem about not problem about our business, but one of the things that keeps us kind of tucked into our niche is that we've only got so many retired engineers with 30 years worth of knowledge that can sit behind a video call and help people. I suppose my goal is to take the AI, at least get it to the point of where one of our engineers is, so the AI can independently diagnose an issue, recommend the right parts, but actually with that knowledge kind of embedded. And then if we can do that, then there's no reason that it can't be replicated elsewhere, which means that essentially we've got these huge problems like the trade skills gap here, where sort of we've only got half of the amount of tradespeople that we need over the next kind of couple of years to be able to deal with all of these repairs. And actually creating a scalable solution like that, I think would help a lot.
And do you see, so obviously you're going to have all this knowledge and stuff, do you also see there's an opportunity to leverage some of that once it's in there to help train some of the new people coming up and things like that? Is there like a cyclical?
Absolutely. So what I'm really interested in is being able to use video training data to sort of train apprentices in as they come into the trades. One of the things, so our repairs assistant that was resident facing, actually we've now extended to become available to kind of tradespeople that are on the job, to people in contact centers. One of the great things that we're seeing with the contact center version is you can take someone that has no experience or little experience of repairs, connect them with a resident, and then all of a sudden, they've got this kind of expert guidance that they can use, and they can achieve so much more with minimal training, which just means that you get better resident experiences. Less training cycles. If you've got staff churn, it's not such a huge issue anymore in terms of retraining and upskilling and things like that. So really, I think one of the very exciting, so there's the terrifying and then the exciting. And I think the terrifying is, they took our jobs, that kind of AI will make people obsolete. But the exciting counterpoint to that is being able to take an ordinary unskilled, semi-skilled person and arm them with all of the right knowledge to make really, really good decisions, which ultimately will help residents, and which is what we do. We help residents.
I think that's hugely powerful. And so you're obviously you're live now with this with the AI tool, which is I think that's fairly rare in and of itself. I think trying to get anything into production is always a bit of a nightmare. So huge kudos for that. And do you have any kind of, are you to the point now where you can say, look, this is the ROI that we've been able to deliver with this, or we've got data. That the AI is resolving around 6% of repairs without attendance. So I mean, look, if you compare it to our remote engineers that solve 15%, it's nowhere near where that, but 6% is pretty good.
even for where it's at the moment. I suppose the goal is to work on that. That's the metric. How many repairs can it solve without any human intervention? Um, and there's always and how do we protect people as well and protect ourselves and make sure that it does it in the right way, and not kind of move too fast. Like there's a
Yeah,
temptation,
yeah,
right? To
yeah.
build something amazing and create something amazing and then just unleash it on the world. And but what we're trying to do is, right, we've got it into production, it's selling, we know that it works. Let's now tread with care. Let's make sure that we do it the right way. And I think that's like a moral and an ethical challenge when balanced against growth and the exciting kind of scaling and things like that.
Yeah. No, I think yeah, having to restrain myself is one of the things I spend most of my time doing, to be honest. But no, yeah, it's absolutely right. So the in terms of looking kind of more broadly, I guess, across the sector, do you see obviously the real estate sector, when we say real estate, the built environment, whatever phrase you want to give it, is pretty broad. Is there any, I'll be interested to know, have you seen any like really cool applications of AI that you're like, wow, this is nuts. This is going to change a lot of stuff. So I put you on the spot there.
The
So
voice stuff is
technology.
just, I mean, like I've recently discovered the voice AI assistants and repairs focused, and it's just it's blowing my mind already. I was just literally before this call building one, and connecting it up to all kinds of weird and wonderful stuff, and it just it's extremely realistic now. It's quite natural. So that's blowing my mind a little bit at the moment. Voice assistants is my pick of the month, I suppose.
We'll come back
What
next
I'm
month.
really, huh?
We'll come back next month.
Yeah,
We'll make this a regular feature.
What I'm extremely excited about at the moment and where I see the most potential is in the house building space, actually, if I'm honest, for
Okay.
AI. I think that one of the biggest problems we have is a housing shortage here in the UK. There's a long cycle of kind of build and building properly, and like I said, we haven't got enough tradespeople to do all of this work as well. So I see that there's some exciting stuff in the house build space, that might be coming up in a few years that I really want to watch with interest. I know that you're personally, got some things on the bubble, and I've got some ideas and stuff like that. But I think there's a big application there. I think with responsive repairs, obviously, all I talk about really is repairs because it's what I live and breathe. I'm a gas engineer, so everything that I know is fixing things. I think with domestic with domestic repairs and stuff like that, there's a long way to go. Um,
I think yeah, there's a lot of I guess anytime you're dealing with kind of infinitely legacy boiler systems, stacks, anything like that, there's a lot of that's a tricky one, right? I'd imagine some of the newer stuff, if you maybe you could get, I don't know, yeah, that I would imagine that's a very difficult challenge. I wouldn't like to challenge that right now.
yeah, that's a tough. I mean, that's a
Yeah,
5 year time job.
it's a 5 year. We're not in 10 year horizons anymore. A really
No,
tough
we
job
work in
next
cycles
5 years.
of five. Cycles of
Okay.
five. But
Well,
yeah, it's extremely exciting. As I said, I think people are going to start thinking about data in a different way. I think that people need to be prepared to understand that data is no longer a commodity in the traditional sense that we thought it was. As soon as I've just been speaking to someone that sells data on boilers for a living, and I've explained to them, or I've tried to explain them to them, that you realize that the moment you sell that data to someone, the first thing they're going to do is upload it to a model somewhere to kind of try and tinker with it and find something out, and essentially that data will be part of some kind of training set, within a very short space of time. And I think that the way that we think about data, and I'm not talking about personal data, but there is something on that as well that I'd like to talk about shortly. But the way that we think about data and protecting data, I think is going to change over time.
In what way?
Because
To become more protective about the data, or what?
I think inevitably all data will become part of some kind of model somewhere. And I think it's trying to, you can only try and protect it so much, but there'll be leakages from so many different points that it's going to be difficult to protect it going forwards long term.
That's really interesting and slightly a terrifying thought,
It's
but
terrifying, yeah.
well, you're seeing it already. You know, I guess to that point, you know, you're seeing these big companies who aren't deliberately aren't rolling out ChatGPT because they're worried about what people are putting into the system. So, but it doesn't matter, because if you give them something that's not as good as ChatGPT, they'll just go around the side and they'll lose you on their phone and they'll start typing your details in the phone. So there's leakage all around. So it's kind of, yeah, no, I totally agree that, but then there's big questions, I guess, on that is, oh, I feel like we could be on this topic for hours, but yeah, that actually raises red flags of what is your competitive advantage in the marketplace for
Exactly.
providers.
Yeah. And that's an extremely good point. What is the competitive advantage? And I think thinking that it's your data will work for so long, but eventually it's not going to work anymore.
So then we all just become commodity players,
We
basically.
are all going to be commodity players. The only leverage will be first to market, and size and scale and speed of deployment. You
Wow.
know, that's my point of view. You know, essentially what I'm building today, which is this repairs kind of vision model that can identify spare parts and so on and so forth. I'm sure there are thousands of founders all over the planet building similar things at the moment, thinking that their corner of the world is safe and their model will be protected and so on and so forth. But I think that eventually, you know, I mean, we could go down a rabbit hole here, so probably careful, but eventually, you know, this will all form part of some kind of, you know, central intelligence, or you know, some model somewhere that's connected to another model that's connected to something else, and it'll all be swallowed up, and publicly accessible and probably free if the big providers get their way and drive down the price of AI and make it a free resource. So yeah, just a lot to think about in terms of data and the value of it, I think.
No, I agree. And you mentioned about the personal data side of stuff. You know, that kind of takes me on to the kind of ethical considerations with AI and kind of adopting these technologies. And you mentioned it before. You know, you've got these kind of retired trades and stuff. What's the, how does that all work in terms of, you know, the ethical considerations around all that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So the trades that are working towards building what we're building are all part of the journey. So they're all they're completely aware of what it's being used for. They share in the upside of anything that's built because it's their knowledge that's being utilized. And so therefore we've got a kind of almost like a collective, let's do it together for the good of the world kind of approach, which is fantastic. I think, you know, otherwise anyone would be extremely terrified and resistant to share their knowledge if they knew that it was going to be used for some kind of AI, you know, replica in the future or something like that. So we have a bit of a um, unique kind of approach in that everyone is incentivized and on board for the ride together. So yeah, so that's working for us. But yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of questions around, and again, personal data. So if we look at personal data, there's startups out there right now that are for the good of social housing, for instance, are creating what, you know, this kind of golden record.
Yeah,
Um,
the
uh,
golden thread, right?
well,
Certainly
yeah.
talked
So the
about
golden
the
thread
golden.
was the
What's the
golden
golden?
thread, and now we've got the golden record.
Right. Okay.
Now the golden record doesn't just contain property information. It doesn't just contain personal data as such as name, email address, and phone number and all that, but it also contains NHS information. You know, my NHS records,
Wow.
how can they be accessed? Because that data is really valuable. So if I know that someone has a respiratory condition and that suffers from or has had TB or something like that, and they live in a property with mold, then I'm more likely to be able to help them more efficiently. But actually, having
Right.
that data in the first place, again, is questionable.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I guess there's good stuff like that example there is great. that that they might have an issue with mold, etc. But also if they've got a peanut allergy, that's probably potentially lethal to them. That's in the wrong hands. That would be equally terrifying. So yeah, that's and another weird thing on that. So I was reading I think a third of all GPs or something ridiculous have said that they use ChatGPT on a daily basis. So that means that even if they're just getting second diagnosis, that's a lot of our own data going. I'm sure they won't mention, Tom Shrive came in today and he said he had X problem, but the reality is you could probably start to marry up these people when they're taking appointments. If you wanted to get that stuff, there's probably a lot of data that's starting to leak already, and we just don't really know about it.
Exactly. And let's say, for instance, I'm building up a golden record for the purposes of helping a resident, because, we want to make sure that the resident's healthy and doesn't get hurt with damp and mold. And let's say I send that information via API, via a sub-processor to some other piece of software somewhere that thinks, actually, do you know what? I can sell this resin a special type of carpet that doesn't have fibers in because they've got asthma, and actually our fibers protect you against asthma, and I've got that data because it came via the sub-processor and I've got access to the sub-processor. So actually, where does that end? And then essentially, are we all going to end up with all of the information about ourselves being available?
Have you thought about how to stop that? How to ways around that? Like, I know there's the whole idea of kind of like data that's kind of stored on don't want to use the word, both AI and blockchain in the same piece of content. But yeah, the idea of kind of you only get to access that data on request, but I don't even know how that would work, to be honest. I don't know the ins and outs of that. It seems once data's out there, it's out there, right?
Once it's out, it's out. I don't know if you ever bought a mailing list. I mean, I can openly hold my hands up and say,
I have done once, and it was.
I have bought a mailing list and I have used it. I'm sorry to all you wonderful people, but people actively seek this information. And I think this is a real danger because if you're conversing, and even if you're conversing with an AI assistant, and the AI assistant says, well, I can see that you've got damp and mold in your property. Have you got any health problems? And you say, yeah, I've got asthma. Oh, and I've got 2 kids and they've got asthma. Right. Oh, great. Well, how old are the kids? Oh, my kids are 4 and 7. Are they boys or girls? Are they girls? And then suddenly, you're now transferring information that would have never been transferred before into some AI that's then going to store all those items as variables and share it with some other application to make a decision. And it's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. We don't do that, by the way. But it's terrifying, right?
No, I agree. I agree. You kind of blowing my mind as we're talking, actually, because things that there's things that but then there's you don't process them, I think, because you're so stuck in just like, this is what I'm going to build, this is what I'm going to do, that suddenly when you take a step back, someone's like, what about this? You're like, wow, yeah, that's those are really good questions, and maybe big tech needs to ask those questions a little bit more. It's so funny because I don't know if you've seen it, but on LinkedIn and stuff, there tends to be this debate around kind of the tech advocates, and then you've got like almost being like the EU is this regulatory body now that's just trying to stop any kind of progress. It's honestly difficult. I think the EU's, I don't know if you read the AI Act and stuff like that, but it makes some good points. I just don't know if it matters what they say, to be honest. That's the problem.
In my opinion, it doesn't matter. I think that, I mean, I don't see myself as a fatalist or a pessimist in any way. And I'm very much in the kind of like, let's just build it for the good of the world and just try and protect as much as we can along the way.
Kind of doing like guardrails on steering. That's, I think, where we can stop, right?
Exactly. But you can't. Yeah, I think that now it's started, and again, we could go on for hours and hours and hours, and there's lots of books on the subject. But the process has started almost, and we're on a train now. I think the responsibility lies with the people that create these solutions. I think the responsibility lies with us, with me and you and the other founders. It's not the big data corporations, it's not the EU, and it's not the regulations that are going to protect the people. It's the people need to be protected from us. And we need to protect people from ourselves when we build these solutions and do it responsibly. And it's tempting not to, but we have to, I think.
That's a really good message. So actually that kind of segues me on nicely, actually, to the last bit. advice you'd give to other kind of people in our field, be it either kind of within the built environment, maybe they're looking at AI but don't really understand it, don't really know much about it, what their first step is, or alternatively, maybe they are, a founder like us, and or they've been working in the tech space and AI space, but don't really understand real estate. So, be interesting to get your just general advice.
I think just circling back, I think if you're going to build something yourself, because I think that a lot of people will build custom solutions for themselves rather than just going to a provider, especially larger companies. Just be careful with what you build, and build responsibly. Sounds ridiculous. It's like drink responsibly, but build responsibly.
Build responsibly. Let's get some t-shirts made of that, because I can't.
Yeah, build responsibly. And I think understanding, having a deep understanding of what you're trying to build, I think before you start to build it is good. There's lots of experts out there, so that are not me. There's people much more qualified than me, like Tom. Go and speak to people that actually know what they're doing. Is probably a good start. And really boring stuff. Just make sure the companies you're working with are protecting the data that you're giving them before signing up with them. Make sure that they use encrypted data. Their data is encrypted in transit at rest. That who their subprocessors are. Who are they using to send that data across. What are they using and how are they using it. Just be cautious. And also the big companies don't have all the answers. It's the smaller companies, it's the smaller innovative solutions that are really making a difference. So I think at the moment.
You know what, I was thinking about this actually the other day. Obviously when you sign an agreement on contracts, you've got all the kind of sub-processes listed. I would really love to be able to, if there was a tool somewhere that could start to kind of dive in deep at what that web of sub-processes looks like. Do you know what I mean? Because you sign a contract, but that sub-processor has sub-processes, that sub-processor has sub-processors, and you get this. There's got to be something in that space that people can sort out. So I actually have a clear idea when I'm signing a contract what the extremities of that sub-processing world looks like.
There's a startup right there.
There is.
Every day there's a new startup. You're right. Yeah. It's like a ripple in a pond. Okay. Yeah. I put my data here. Okay. So I'm not going to use my company name as an example, but I put my data here, and that's who I signed my agreement with. But my data here then gets rippled out to AWS, Mailgun for sending an email, or Twilio for sending SMS, or whatever you're using to build your wonderful invention, who then ripple out to other data services that they use to be able to deliver what they do. And you're creating a ripple effect, and everyone is dropping pebbles in the ocean and creating ripples that are overlapping with each other. So when you sign your agreement, you're probably signing 500 other agreements that you didn't know you were signing at the same time.
Yeah. Right. Well, that's
terrifying.
Well, let's end there on that terrifying piece. No, I think Ettan, that's really good. Thanks so much for your time today. I think we could probably do another 10 of these and cover off, and it's still not really touched the sides on kind of the ethical considerations, the challenges, but also the opportunities. But ultimately, I guess you're excited to be for the future of AI.
I'm so excited. Yeah. I'm like bursting with excitement. I'm one of those, I'm very much a believer in that people are good people, and people will create things for good purposes. And I think that what's going to happen over the next 10 years is going to really define who we are as a species, and how we create almost like the next generation of tech going forwards. I'm very excited to see what happens. I'm very excited about, like I said, the use of data. I'm very excited about robotics. I'm very excited about AI. And I'm kind of a wait and see. I just want to be around long enough to see what unfolds. So yeah, all thumbs up from me.
Thanks, mate. That's great. Just to finish up, so we'll probably have some kind of a link, I don't know right now, to sign up to some more of these sessions on here. But yeah, again, thanks so much, Ettan, and cue the credits. Cheers.
Cool.